How's it going, everyone? Sir Douglas here once again with a brand new video, and both of these teams decided to get together and start essentially a turnover bakery. Uh, this was a bit of a wild game, but very messy, but very entertaining, especially if you're a Toronto fan. Upon sober review, the Toronto Argonauts defeated the Ottawa Redblacks 44-24 in Ottawa last Saturday to kick off the triple header. And, well, we got a lot to get to, so let's just get right into it. First off, first possession, right off the bat, Jake Mayer, he gets mauled as he threw the ball, and James Caesar was able to get underneath it and make an interception, so the first of many on the day. Um, like I said, Jake Mayer, he got mauled on the play by the defense, and James Caesar was able to capitalize. And on top of that, the Argos were able to big time capitalize on the mistake as a surgical drive starting from their own 35-yard line. And it was Chad Kelly finding Mackay Polk in the end zone. Extra point was good. Early 7-0 lead. After a couple of two and outs, starting from getting a no yards call to start the drive, and Ottawa was able to get down the field. Jake Mayer finds Aiden Eberhardt in the end zone for a nice touchdown. There was also an offside call on that somewhere in there too to help Ottawa along. Extra point good there, and it's all level at sevens. Then the Argos simply just said, you know what? Enough of this nonsense. It took them four plays to respond. Four. And two of them got the first down. Then there was a nice deep shot. Found Dave Unger the third. And then it was Kelly to Coxie, Coxie was wide open, absolutely wide open. He was a solid 3 paces ahead of his defender. Scampers into the end zone. Extra point good. And 14-7 for Toronto. Then that would close the first quarter. And I have to mention that Chad Kelly, up to that point, he was 9 for 9, 128 yards, 2 touchdowns. Ridiculous for someone who is allegedly got a crap ton of rust on him, eh? Going into the second quarter, though, we had a kind of a serious moment here as Robert Priester. He had a non-contact injury, and it looked very serious because there was a lot of players standing. There were a lot of players kind of kneeling around him and doing prayers and all this other stuff. And it was eventually found out later that he was on crutches in a walking boot after he was checked out in the medical tent. So at least 6 games out for Robert Priester. But Ethan John, now's your time. I mean, he was one of our draft picks in the draft this year, so now's your time to shine. Anyway, so moving on, Chad Kelly. He got sacked. His helmet and he lost his helmet on the play. I don't understand. Like, there's a couple things that I simply just don't understand on this. Like, for starters, if a helmet pops off when a quarterback's getting hit, especially if it's a quarterback's helmet, don't you? I mean, I don't know. Should there be a rough in the passer call there? I don't know. But instead of, and I mean, there was a flag thrown, and everybody, including Dwayne Ford and Dustin Nielsen, thought that it was going to be a rough in the passer call exactly because of that. Instead, they called the intentional grounding to try and do anything, but they called the intentional grounding. The play where this all came up to ended up being asked anyway. So, I mean, and the intentional grounding, it was a correct call. There was no receiver nearby, and he couldn't get it to the line of scrimmage. So, no debate on the intentional grounding call. It's the debate is where the rough and the passer comes in. On Ottawa's possession, there wasn't much to it except for Jake Mayer finding Aiden Eberhardt again. He was a big target on the day, but on this one, Tavares McFadden laid the leather in a little bit. he gave him a big hit. He still came up with a ball though, and that was a big one. We also saw the apparently the Ryan Dinwiddie meme. Those Toronto fans know this very well. apparently that doesn't carry over with that doesn't carry over to a new team, because he challenged a defensive pass interference call. It was DPI, no doubt about it. But ultimately, like I said, like normally a Ryan Dinwiddie meme goes like this: "Hello, hello, command center. Oh, hey, yeah, hi. So okay, so there's a challenge. Okay, who's making it? Ryan Dinwiddie? With Toronto? Fuck him." And that was it. That's how the Dinwiddie meme goes. Apparently, when he got to Ottawa, that went away. So yeah, like I said, upon sober review, no problems there. But the Argo D stiffened up and kept it to a field goal. 14-10 lead still for Toronto. Then 9 minutes and 8 seconds left to go. Chad Kelly rolls out. He manages to find Demonte Coxey for the first down. However, when he got hit, he was slow to get up. Now, once again, I don't know if this was just like a little bit of I don't know if you would call this a standard football play, because because you could argue it was a clean tackle, but it still seemed like the arm was a little high, and his head came down, bounced off the turf. Now, a lot of people think. Now, I know there's certain people out there, especially on X, and one guy actually thinks that he probably got a concussion on this play. And to be quite honest, I don't know I don't know what the concussion spotter was doing, but he didn't do anything. He just said, "Yeah, he's fine. He's good to go. Just keep on going." And I'm like, like his head bounced off the turf. Don't you think you would be able to just take him off and let him go for a test? I don't know. And once again, when you see that kind of stuff, why don't you call roughing the passer? I don't understand. Anyway, so in that drive, they got to the goal line, and I think there was a little bit. And this is what I think caused everything to go on, because there was a little bit of confusion here, because Chad must have thought that it was third and goal on the 1. Turns out they spotted it on the 2, and on the next play they tried to sneak it in, and it didn't work. Surprise, surprise, because it was on the 2 and not the 1. So couldn't breach the defense to get the score. Yeah. Once again, there was another hit. Helmet popped off again. I don't think. Yeah. Calm down. You'll be fine. Anyway, next up after that, the next series for Toronto ended up being an interception. Kelly was looking for Kevin Mittal. He finds Alonzo Adai. Ottawa couldn't take advantage of it. And that was the story right there. But that was Chad Kelly's first interception of the day. He had 4. That was the first. Then we saw Mike Miller make a challenge, and it was extremely similar to what Ryan Dinwiddie challenged for when it wasn't DPI, and guess what? And it got reversed. So this one also got reversed. Helped the Argos forward. Isaiah Smith, he came into the game. He and Sam Hicks kind of split duties, and he had a great effort to convert on a second down and long, after Tyler Common on the previous play was offside by a solid kilometer, to put it bluntly. But then on the same play, Chad Kelly finds Tyler Common, and the defender just mistimed the swat by just a hair in order to prevent the touchdown. But ultimately, Toronto touchdown, extra point good, 21-10 Toronto lead, and Ottawa at the end of the half got another field goal to make it close. It was a 21-13 Toronto lead at the half. And then going into the second half, another Chad Kelly, Kevin Mittal again. This is a combination that's proven to be absolutely deadly. However, they couldn't break the D on for the goal line. Settled for another field goal, 24-13 Toronto lead. Ottawa kind of got a drive going. However, there was an interception, but it was taken off the board This interception was called back because there was a defensive pass interference call. I don't know. It seemed a little soft to me, the call DPI, especially if he wasn't even the target. But I mean, they did what they did. Okay, whatever. But ultimately, that only led to nothing because Jonathan Combo came out there and gave a big blindside sack to Jake Mayer. That only led to a Ottawa field goal. It's now 24-16. I found this funny that the Ottawa bench got a flag for disorderly conduct. I think it was like objectionable conduct, and they got a flag for it. So, and this was after a big catch by Mackay Polk too. So that didn't help matters. And that ultimately, and then we had a touchdown. And once again, Chad Kelly finds Dave Ungerer the third. There was no doubt about this at all. Like it was a fantastic catch for Dave Ungerer. Extra point good, 31-16, Toronto running away with it. Then Ottawa's next drive, it ended up being a turnover on downs. It was a huge stop of the Argos D, and kind of like lackadaisical from the Ottawa offense to not push forward as hard as you normally should have. Ultimately, it was just then. Once again, Chad Kelly picking the defense apart with using Kevin Mittal mainly. Short yardages are still a little bit of struggling going on. I mean, but ultimately, like we saw Dakota Shepley getting a yellow card as well. That's an objection. It was actually an unnecessary roughness call that gave him the misconduct foul. And this was after a first. And they didn't get the first down anyways, so they went back 15 yards. It was third down, so Toronto had to settle for a field goal, 34-16. Then we have kind of a weird sequence of events that I noticed, where Chad Kelly tried to find Kevin Mittal. He ended up finding Lucas Cormier of Ottawa instead. He starts running away with it. Mackay Polk comes out of nowhere, punches the ball out. It's now loose on the field. Ottawa then jumps on top of it anyways, and they still managed to, and they still got the ball back, and it actually counted as an interception. So, again, that pretty much ended the third quarter. Then we had like I thought was a very bad. This I thought was like one of the worst calls I've seen from this refereeing court. When you consider that the ball was a solid 12 to 13 feet higher than Aiden Eberhard ever could get up to, it was an uncatchable ball, and he just runs into the defender. He kind of raises his arm as if the defender kind of ran into him, kind of took him out, and the refs bought it hook, line, and sinker. Like, really? The defender has a right to that space too. So, it was just, yeah. That was just like terrible. That was just, I'm sorry, that was a big old what the fuck moment there. But they still couldn't, and Ottawa still couldn't capitalize, even with that. So they still ended up with another field goal. It was 34-19. Then I think we see the symptoms of Chad Kelly's head knocks come into play here, because two interceptions, both Scott Hutter picked them both up. Once again, Ottawa really couldn't capitalize on it. Right? Ottawa just couldn't capitalize on it. I mean, the first interception led to a field goal that made it 34-22. And the second one just led to a really good goal line stand from Toronto here, where from basically first and goal, he was looking for Pimpleton. He should have caught that ball. He should have caught it, and it basically just kind of fell through, and he booted it away. It was incomplete. Second and goal, once again from the gun, it was incomplete again, leading to the 3-minute warning. Third and goal, Dan Adeboboye gets a hold of the ball. He starts trying to get it, and he doesn't get into the end zone. Ball never broke the plane of the goal line, and it led to a turnover on downs for Toronto. That then led to a 2-and-out for Toronto, and John Haggerty just ran around with it and just took the knee. So 34-24. So then we come into the end game here, where Benji Franklin picks off Jake Mayer. He had to climb the ladder over his target in order to get it. That unfortunately led to a 2-and-out. But anyways, doesn't matter because Argos forced a fumble. It was Khalil Pimpleton on the attempted return. It was fumbled. Argos regained the ball, and then they just kept it on the ground. Sam Hicks just ran the rock right into the end zone, and that was pretty much it. Ottawa didn't do anything on their final drive, and then Toronto got one last field goal. Final score 44-24. I mean, Chad Kelly went 25 for 32, over 400-yard game, 424 yards, 4 touchdowns, 4 picks. I can forgive 2 of those. I can forgive 2 of the picks. The other 2, I honestly think he had. I think there was a little bit of goings on in his head. And then like the rushing game is significantly better than it was last year. I mean, Sam Hicks 16 carries, 79 yards and a touchdown. Isaiah Smith had 6 carries for 21. Big story of the day though, and my player of the week, Kevin Mittal, 8 for 11, 178 yards. That is ridiculous. The man was a workhorse in between the goal lines because Dave Unger III, DeMonte Coxey, Tyler Common, and Mackay Polk all had touchdowns. Unfortunately, he didn't have one. So, and I mean, and on the defense, Isaac Darkangelo had, he and Adarius Pickett did most of the work today. Both of them, Darkangelo had 10 tackles and Adarius Pickett had 5. So, that's I mean, this was a much improved effort from the Argos from last week. They looked like they got the rust out. But remember, we're playing Ottawa, the perennial bottom feeders of the league. Sorry, it's true. If they want to put the league on notice saying, hey, you guys discounted us, we're going to make you pay for that mistake. Next Friday would be the best day to do it. Because you're going to be playing against the defending Grey Cup champions in Regina in what's supposed to be your home game. You guys want to put the league on notice saying that that we have been discounted. You guys all ranked us 9th in power rankings across the board. You guys never gave us a chance. You want to count yourself up there? Beat the Riders next week. That's all I got. Beat the Riders next week. So, like I said, it was a great effort for Toronto. I've got really no complaints other than just like the minor stuff that I described in the thing. And that's all I'm going to say for next week. Beat the Riders. I'm going to have an away game live stream for that as well. That's going to be coming up Friday. Going to start that around 8:50 Eastern time. Tune in for that. You'll have just as much fun as we did last week with this Ottawa game. So come on for that. Make sure you like and subscribe, folks. I will see you all again in the very near future. Enjoy the Argo victory this week. And cheers, everybody.